Victoria and welcome back to my crime and policing channel. In today's session we are going to be continuing our exploration about domestic abuse in policing. So we've done some videos before on domestic abuse, domestic violence and procedures and policies surrounding this. However, as with all things contemporary policing, these things evolve and adapt over time so we can best police these problems. So we've mentioned something called the DASH before, which is your domestic abuse, stalking, harassment and honour-based violence procedure. It's like a checklist that you take with you when you're talking to victims of domestic abuse, domestic violence, and you go through all these questions with them to try and ascertain the risk that this victim is under. So the DASH form itself is brilliant, developed by Laura Richards, and that itself was part of evidence-based policing, where they looked at a problem, they'd gone, right, this is pretty bad, they'd assess what is currently being done, not much, let's put this in place. They tried this, they put this form in place, developed this form, they tried it out, it was great, so they ran with it and shared it across the force, and it was adopted as just regular practice. So the DASH form you might still use if you are in force now. That is going to be superseded by something called the DARA, which is what we're talking about today. So you might still use DASH occasionally. From looking at some of the intelligence around that, DASH might be used by partner agencies, but in a policing purpose, the DASH has been, like I said, superseded by the DARA, your domestic abuse risk assessment. Now, some of the questions in the DASH, people were like, why are we asking if someone has ever hurt a family pet or something? And that's because the likelihood of somebody hurting a human after hurting an animal is quite high. If we look at those psychological, like forensic psychology things we did before, you look at people who hurt animals, and that generally evolves and develops over time to hurting people. A little bit like with sexual abuse, when people start like flashing, that can develop and become more serious sexual offences such as sexual assault and rape. And that's what we see with these patterns. So that's why they ask you questions like that. And also, if someone's been strangling their domestic abuse victim, we know that strangulation has a high risk to lead to domestic homicide. And that's what these forms captured. So the DARA form itself is an evolution of the DASH. And that again has been an evidence-based policing approach. So they've looked at the DASH, they've gone through all the what works toolkits and all the other things in the College of Policing. It's been analysed and assessed by academics as well as victims and partner agencies and the police. They've trialled it in 3 forces. It's gone really, really well, and the percentages of crimes that have been solved are much higher, and people that are being made safe are higher, which is fantastic. And as such, we're adopting it across the UK. So if you're not already using it in your force, you will be using it very soon. So the DARA consists of questions just like the DASH, and you rate them on a scale of, how bad things are. It's kind of user friendly, and we're going to go through that on screen in a minute. So the first thing to know about the DARA is it focuses a lot on coercive control. Now, coercive control was included into the domestic abuse and domestic violence processes only recently. I mean, it was only in the Serious Crime Act 2015 that we saw this. It had been bubbling before, so I know it was introduced in June 2014, but then it became part of the Serious Crime Act. Now, if you look at the Domestic Abuse Act 2021, it's threaded through there as well. Coercive control is horrendous, and I can't believe it's taken this long for it to be recognised as abuse, because it is truly terrible. And I'll go through the questions on the DARA which highlight this now. If you are watching this and you feel you might be a victim of this, please do get help. If it's urgent, call 999 if you're in the UK, 911 if you're in the States, or your other emergency numbers in whatever country you're watching from. You can get help, and no one's going to think any less of you for contacting the police or support services. And it can make you feel, if you're a victim of abuse, that you can't talk to anybody. Well, you can. You can talk to someone. You're not going to be judged, and you will be believed. No matter what someone's telling you, you're all right, and you can be safe, okay? So if you are watching this and you think you may be a victim of domestic abuse, and you're looking at this video for some kind of advice of what you can do, please get help, and you will be treated fairly and well, and yeah, you will be supported. So please do get in touch with the emergency services or partner agencies. I'll pop some links in the description as well. Okay, Right, okay, so let's go through the DARA form. Okay, so we're going to go through these questions together. I'm going to pop it on the screen and speak over the actual text. Okay, so as you can see, the DARA, so domestic abuse risk assessment, consists of a number of questions. The first section, you're looking at the coercive control elements of domestic abuse mainly, and I'll go through those with you as well. So this is also a great guide of things to look out for. If you aren't quite sure about policing this yet, maybe you're not long in service or you've not had much to do with domestic abuse, yeah, so have a look at it. As you can see, there are different categories. It says never, occasionally, often, all the time, or not stated. So not always, people won't always answer your questions. And that's okay, because they might not feel at the moment that they can. So when people are abused, coercive controlled, in my experience, they don't feel brave enough to answer those questions because they've been conditioned and manipulated by someone else, their abuser, to believe that if they answer those questions, bad things are going to happen. Maybe they've threatened suicide, threatened to hurt the children, threatened to hurt them, burn the house down. Honestly, the list is endless. And people are that um, brainwashed by people. And this is anybody, by the way. It can be absolutely anybody can be a victim of domestic abuse. So a lot of people think, oh, I wouldn't stand for that. If you've not been there, you can't possibly comment because even the strongest people can be victims of domestic abuse and domestic violence. Okay, that's just my two penneth. So let's have a look at the first question. How often does, so it's obviously it could be with domestic abuse, it could be anybody, couldn't it, in your domestic setting? It could be family, it could be a partner, it could be an ex-partner, so it can be your ex as well. How often does such and such make threats to harm you or things you care about, such as people, pets, or property? And you've got this scale here, the never, occasionally, often, all the time, and not stated. So I mentioned before about people hurting pets and things. Now, threatening to harm things you care about, that is controlling, isn't it? Like, I'm going to smash up maybe your gran has left you a lovely vase or something. So even property can be quite controlling. Maybe someone's threatening to smash up the house. Maybe someone's threatening to, I don't know, punch holes in the wall of the door and you've got a rented property. All these different things, or even something you've worked hard for. How often does ... call you names, humiliate or degrade you? Now, it might just be, originally it starts off as, oh, it's only banter, oh, I'm only messing, why are you so sensitive? Why are you so mardy? And that kind of thing. And you sort of, well, am I just being mardy? Am I sensitive? They might even get the kids or other people involved and be like, isn't your mummy silly? How stupid is your mummy? Hasn't she got a big bum? Ah, she's like jelly, isn't she? And it's not just women, by the way, any gender can be victims of domestic abuse. So calls you names, humiliates or degrades you. Maybe they'll pick on something that normally you're quite confident about. Maybe it's a skill you've got, maybe you're a singer in a band, you're a fashion designer, you're a public speaker, something that you're quite confident about, and they're like, oh, that's rubbish, isn't it? It sounds stupid. They'll get other people involved as well, like maybe they'll do it in front of friends and family, and they'll be all light-hearted and funny about it. Oh, she's so silly, isn't she? Tell everyone how much of a donut you are. You're a donut, aren't you? It's not funny. Not funny. It's not bants. It's not funny. So let's not do that, okay? How often do they control your daily activities, such as how you dress, how you perform household tasks? Wow. Now this one, you might think originally, oh, they just want me to, they just care about how house proud they are. It's nice that they're so house proud. When they start picking on you for maybe you've not ironed the curtains or something, that's when you're at the extreme, right? But like picking on how you've washed the pots, how you've cooked tea. Maybe they tell people, oh, she's a crap cook, stuff like that. So it all reduces your confidence. Maybe controlling, like you said, how you wear, how you dress. Maybe they even throw some of your clothes away or start buying you different clothes. Stuff that you think, I would never wear that in a million years. But then they make you feel like, I bought this just for you. I spent lots of money on it because I care about you so much. Do you like it? Do you appreciate what I've bought you? You never wear it. controlling what you're wearing. Maybe you just started wearing high heels again. Maybe you go back to work, you've got high heels on or something after having a child, and your partner will say, I know this by the way from experience, it's an example I'm giving you that I know. Start wearing heels again because you've gone back to work after having a baby. And then they'll be like, why are you wearing high heels? Who are you trying to attract? Are you trying to appeal to somebody else? Aren't you happy with our family? We've just had a baby, aren't you happy? So things like that. Or really, you should be dressing more like a mother now. People are embarrassed about how you look when you do the school run. Things like that is controlling how you look. No one's embarrassed by how you look, by the way. They're just jealous. They want to control how you look, so nobody else will want to possibly look in your direction. There you go. This is from experience, by the way, so I'm not just making stuff up. How often does the person deny you access to money or control what you can spend it on? Now, even if you earn this money yourself, they will control it. So it might be that you've got a shared account maybe, which is normal. A lot of couples have shared accounts, but it's not normal when they take the cards off you and maybe limit your spending to £10 a week or something ridiculous like that. You can't even get a decent Starbucks meal for £10 a week, people. So, Starbucks meal, I love Starbucks. Sponsor me. Yeah, so they might deny your access to money at all. Like I say, take the cards off you. And they might try and make it feel like it's your idea or a joint idea at first and be like, oh, we should put our cards together. Put everything together so we keep it in one safe space. So we don't just make these like splurges and we can save for a nice holiday together. What do you think? And then it might be, oh, I need to take my card to work. Shall I take yours too so we don't lose them? And then you've got no money. You've got no spare money, you've got no access to stuff. And then it might even get to the stage where you maybe do the shopping and you might, from experience again, having to do online shopping. So this is a case I know, online shopping for groceries. And the person who's abusing, who's controlling the things, checks every single thing that you spent. So you're not spending or buying something they don't want you to buy. Makeup, maybe aftershave, things like this. If you go to the shops in person, they want to check the receipt just for their budgeting so they know they can save up something nice for you together. It's not nice for you together, so they control what you're spending. And maybe you're not saving stuff away so you can run away. How often does this person make you account for where you have been or monitor your phone, email, or social media's check up on you? This is so bad. And initially, a lot of people think, oh, they're just being protective. It's really sweet. No, it's not. No, it really isn't. There's a difference between like sharing your location with someone, because it's late at night maybe, and you are out with your friends, and you're like, right, I'm heading home now. Share your location so they know you're in a taxi and they know you're coming home safely. Because a lot of people don't want to get taxis on their own, and if they're not sharing a cab, maybe something like that is like a safety measure, which is fine. Yeah, that's the difference between like sharing your location because you're in a sketchy area and you want someone to know where you are, to having to hand over your devices so they can go through where you are, who you're talking to, what kind of things you are interacting with, what websites you're looking at. They don't want you looking at anything that might inspire you to see what's going on. If they see you looking at domestic abuse things, that can be quite bad, can't it? If you are looking at even things like social media, they're like, why are you on Snapchat? Snapchat's just for slags. Why are you on there? You're looking for another boyfriend? Are you sending pictures of yourself to people? Are you sending dick pics to other women? Like all these things, it's controlling behaviour, and they're showing that they don't trust you. And a lot of the time it's because they're doing something, just saying. So yeah, that kind of thing, as you know, is coercive control. Okay, how often does this person follow or stalk you or try to contact you when you do not want them to? Maybe, so an example of this I know is when you break up with somebody and then they just won't leave you alone. Stop it. And we've gone through this in other videos as well. Following you around, stalking you, just happening to be somewhere where they know you are going to be. Weird, okay? They're trying to contact you when you don't want them to. Maybe block them on your regular channels and they're actually sending you messages through really weird means. They might start writing you letters to your house, to your parents' houses. Might start messaging your friends and family saying, oh, please talk to her. I don't know why she's like this. It's crazy. You can see how bad it is, can't you? Yeah, she's just having a moment. You know, everything I do for her, she's so ungrateful. I'm saying she a lot because I'm talking about cases that I know. I might say he or they or whatever if a different case comes to mind. How often do you feel isolated or like you have no one to turn to for support? So maybe this is where you might, and it's normal if you're in a relationship, for example, to move elsewhere, maybe get another house, go to a different city for work or something like that. That's normal because you're going for like work or whatever. However, it's totally different to do all that and then take away any information or communication channels to other people. If suddenly you start seeing someone and very quickly you move in together, but you move in together in a completely different end of the country, say you live in Yorkshire, where I am, and then you end up moving to London with this person, you've got no friends in London, you don't have a job in London, your job's in Yorkshire, you've not yet got one down there, but it's okay, I'll take care of your finances for you, don't worry about it. You don't have to work, I'll make sure you're fine. They move down to London with you, just you two, no friends, no family, no money to go and doing anything. You don't have a phone because just they want you to go on a contract with them, you can have a contract together, but it's been a bit of a problem, and yeah, they need to sort out a SIM card or something because your phone's not working. Maybe as well, what they'll do to isolate you from people is break that relationship between you and them. It might be that your best friend is not your friend. She's so jealous of everything you do. It's so toxic. I don't know why you put up with her. Look at how she looks at you. Look at how she talks about you in front of other people. Or your family are really toxic. They don't appreciate how much you've done for them. I'd cut them off if I were you. Let's start afresh and start our own family together. Adventure, just us two. Maybe even if you've got phones, it will be you shouldn't have your phone when you're with me. You're talking to somebody else, making you feel like you can't talk to someone. And even if you do have family, maybe you can't go running to your family every time you fall out with somebody, because if you do that, you're just childish. You need to grow up. You need to accept it and be a man. You can't speak to your family. You should be speaking to me. So this kind of thing, this kind of controlling is actually quite common. Okay, next question. And now we're going on to physical violence. How often does this person use physical violence towards you, such as pushing, slapping, punching, or kicking? That's quite self-explanatory, isn't it? Yeah, pushing as well. So a lot of people don't think pushing is violence. Well, it actually is. It's assaulting somebody, isn't it? Pushing is violence, okay? So pushing somebody, and quite often, oh, I'd only bumped into you and you slipped. You knocked them, you pushed them. You have to push them with your hands, like that motion. It could be a pushing, just to make sure you're asserting yourself, that dominance, that control over someone else. Bad. How often does this person strangle you or attempt to choke or suffocate or drown you? Now, I've mentioned before, strangulation is non-fatal strangulation is a precursor to domestic homicide. So if someone's doing this to you or has done this to you, this is a massive, the biggest red flag I've ever seen. Like imagine like a great white shark on a beach red flag. This is it. This is it. Enough is enough, okay? How often does this person use or threaten to use weapons such as household items, knives, or guns to hurt you? So threaten to use as well as using weapons against you. I know of a case where someone has had an axe, like what? Used an axe to smash up the house, which is obviously threatening as it is, and threatened to chop someone's head off before. Give me one good reason not to chop your effing head off, was what they said. Yeah, that's bad. And then they said, to try to say afterwards, oh, I was threatening the house. The house can really feel that. Yeah, the house is terrified. No, you weren't. You were intimidating somebody else. There's violence. How often does this person threaten or attempt suicide? If you leave me, I'll kill myself. If you leave me and take my kids, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll kill myself. That's so bad, isn't it? That in itself is like putting the blame on you. If I die, it's your fault. You're taking away the mother of your children. If I die, it's your fault. Yeah, rescues. Okay, question 12. Have you recently separated from, or do you plan to separate from them? Now, this is important because one of the most dangerous times or most high risk you are from domestic homicide or higher levels of violence is when you make the decision to leave, which is why a lot of people don't. Or they make the decision once, they get battered for it, and they don't do it again. So one of the most, like I said, high risk times is when you make the decision to leave or you just leave. That is the most dangerous time for victims of domestic abuse. And they ask you this so they can put things in place to protect you and other people if necessary, and pets and things if necessary. So be honest with that, okay? Because as it said, if yes, has or will this put you in danger? It might be that you have broken up with somebody, you finally said, you know what, this is it, we need to break up. And then they come back into your house when you're not there. They might start leaving stuff out for you to look at, like wedding rings, Valentine's Day cards, things like this, as if you're going mad and saying, I've not been to the house. I know someone who changed the locks on their door, and then they had a really angry outburst from their ex saying, how have you changed the locks? Why are you trying to get into my house? So this is things that happen. I know someone who threatened to burn his wife's house down because they'd left. Well, they'd actually separated. He left the property because the lease was in the wife's name. He left the property and he threatened to burn the house down. They had a child as well, so the fire brigade had to come and seal up the letterbox. It's that bad. Okay, so this is how dangerous it is. But that's why, don't worry, if you are in this position, you can get help, and that's why they ask you these questions so they can put help in place for you. Is the abuse you're experiencing from this person getting worse? So things like domestic abuse, as with other kind of violent crimes, it escalates. So maybe they're just throwing something at you now, but that's telling us again that this is going to escalate and it's going to get more and more physical, and that's going to become more and more normal to you. No, it's not normal, but you'll be used to it. So for you, you'll think, oh, it didn't mean to. It was my fault. I shouldn't have wound him up. Or it was my fault. I shouldn't have wound her up. I know she's had a hard day at work. And men can't hit women, but she can hit me. It's fine. No, it's not. Has such and such ever threatened to kill you and you believe they were capable of doing it? So the example I gave earlier, give me one good reason not to chop your head off with this axe. That might make you think, right, they are going to kill me, and you believe they're capable of it. And be honest again with that one. So looking at these ones, just to mention, by the way, questions 12 onwards, it's a yes or no response. It's not the ones before. So this is quite straightforward. Have they done it? Yes, no. And if they don't answer as well, maybe wonder why they're not answering that question. Have they ever hurt the children? So if there are children involved, has this person ever hurt them? Be honest with that as well. And some people think, well, if I tell them that he's actually hurt them, that they'll take him off me. And I know of a case actually where there was a male female couple with a young boy, and the male stepfather figure in the relationship was really rough with this little boy, like pretending he was just play fighting, but over too rough with him, actually hurt him more than once, and she didn't know what to do. And yeah, it was an awful situation, but she didn't get him taken off her. They helped her and she's out of that toxic relationship and she's thriving now. Son's amazing and she's amazing. So yeah. Does such and such use child contact arrangements to control you or to continue to abuse you? This is so common. So maybe you've got like a flexible child contact arrangement, and the only thing they can do now to continue to control you is by changing them or by being unreasonable with these things. It might be you've got plans and they know you've got plans. You might be going for a visit to see your friends. I don't know. You're going down London. I keep mentioning London. You're going to London to see your friends from school, and they've all moved on and they're scheduled to have your child at the weekend. And then they don't. And that means that your plans have changed. Or maybe they want to change the time or the day at the last minute, or you've got these solid things in place, and then they'll use that to continue to abuse you. They will consistently use that because it's the last thread they've got to control you. And it does happen. It happens a lot. They might even use that, so the threat of going back to court, as a way to abuse you, which is very, very common. Yeah, shocking really. Are you pregnant or have you recently had a baby? So that's, you're at risk when you've just done that. Okay, so question 18 then, you've now got a moving scale. So from 0 all the way up to 10, and obviously not stated. And this question, if we look on the screen now, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is not at all likely and 10 is very likely, how likely do you think it is that this person will seriously injure you in the future? And then you obviously put where it is. Now, from these questions, we're going to scroll down and look at the general assessment of threat posed to the victim. And let's read what the disclaimer says here. So, using the information you've collected and know about the victim and perpetrator and your professional judgment, please provide a summary of the threat posed to the victim by the perpetrator. Specifically consider these factors. So, how scared you perceive the victim to be and the immediate threat posed by the perpetrator. So people show fear in different ways. Now, you don't expect people to go like, oh no, ah. It's not how people show fear. They might just be like, a little bit like, I don't know. They're scared. So think about that. Don't think about a cartoon reaction. Think about, do you perceive, are they fearful? Maybe of telling you everything. Whether you think the victim feels they cannot or is being prevented from disclosing the abuse, like I've just mentioned. It's very, very common, especially in the initial stages of police contact, for victims not to want to say things. Something that's very common that you hear a lot is, I just want it to stop. I don't want him to get into trouble. I don't want her to get into trouble. I just want it to stop. It's not going to just stop. It's not going to just stop. And that's the easiest way. And I know it's hard to have to think you have to go through all of this stuff again, especially when you're the weakest, but it's not going to just stop. You need help, okay? The level of control the perpetrator has over the victim. So think about that. Is there a chance that they're going to go back and things? Any significant mental health, alcohol or substance abuse issues? Any other aggregating factors from the victim's responses? So it might lead to the perpetrator to committing serious harm against that victim. So like I said, they've recently separated, or the victim plans to leave, an injunction has expired or is about to expire, and there are breaches of existing orders. It's very dangerous, like I mentioned, at that time when you make the decision to separate. So yeah, that's why they ask these questions, so they can protect you. That's all. Evidence of harmful cultural practices such as honour-based abuse or forced marriage. So that's in itself is another flag. Okay, so that's the initial part. And then after that, we do an assessment of the threat into standard, medium or high. So standard, there appears to be no pattern of abusive behaviour or control of one person by another. Current evidence does not indicate likelihood of causing serious harm. Okay, not bad. Medium. There appears to be a pattern of abuse or control of one person by another and or frequent physical violence. The offender has the potential to cause serious harm, but is unlikely to do so unless there is a change in circumstances, such as a victim attempting to leave. High. There's an extreme level of control of one person to another, etc. So this is your high level. And that is your DARA form. So all in all, I think it's good. I think there are things that are missing looking at that. So I'm just reading it through again. Physical violence, etc. Stalk you. What I think it could include that it doesn't include is sexual elements of domestic abuse and coercive control. That's not on there. So maybe things like, if you love me, you would, because that's not consent. It's not true consent. If you don't do it, I'll have to go and get it somewhere else. That's not true consent. That person is manipulating you into sex. So I think that is what's missing off the DARA. So if you're watching this, people, College of Policing, yeah, I think you should put that in at your next thing, because that's a massive part of domestic abuse. So I hope from looking at this DARA form and from considering what we've been talking about, that as a police officer or as a member of the criminal justice family, you now know how this works and the developments that are going to be coming up. If you are a victim of this type of crime and you do feel that you need to speak to someone, please look at one of the contact numbers in the description, and please do take care of yourself, okay? And there is help available, and it doesn't matter whatever gender you are, you can get help. So please do get in touch with any of the partner agencies. Call 999 if it's an emergency, and there are other ways to report things too, and all that will be in the description. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Stay safe, look after each other, and please don't commit any crimes.